Westchester Jewish Community Services. As a leading agency in providing a comprehensive spectrum of human services, we have been helping people since 1943. We serve all people in Westchester County, regardless of age, income, or ethnicity. We provide a wide variety of essential and dynamic services that make a difference in people's lives. Children, teens, adults, and senior citizens are served by our network of programs located throughout the county. When people come to us for assistance, they become part of the WJCS family. Our highly trained and skilled staff focus on you and your family and are committed to becoming your partner in finding solutions. For more than half a century, we have been connecting people to services that help them overcome mental, physical, or emotional challenges. WJCS is here in your community when you need us.
A Different Start is a program for mothers on public assistance with children 0 to 3 years of age. It provides the mothers with all of the supports that they need to move successfully from welfare to work. And most importantly, this is the only program in Yonkers which provides child care for infants and toddlers. In the Child Care Center, mothers have come into this program with babies 6 weeks old who are anxious to get back to school and begin.
When I started at A Different Start, I was a single mom with 3 children. I was taught through the parenting class how to talk to my children, be patient, how to, give them a lot of attention and affection. It helped me to get out every day, get out and do different things. Basically, I was able to get my GED, prepare for it, and I was able to get a job here.
When children struggle in school, they are not only at a competitive disadvantage. The frustration and tension they often feel can affect their self-esteem and the entire family's functioning. Our staff are tops in their field. In addition to providing assessments and remediation, we also work closely with parents, schools, and other professionals to help children achieve success and regain self-confidence.
Now read it.
3, 4,
For Kimberly, being in the Learning Center this year has helped her greatly. She's developed confidence. She has developed her word recognition, and her number recognition has greatly improved.
What's this one?
Rat.
A rat. You know what? Do you know how to spell rat?
R.
A.
T.
You know what? You can write the word rat right there. See? You didn't even know that you knew how to spell it.
It's made a great difference in her life. If every child could have an opportunity like this, it would be magnificent.
Linkages is an interdisciplinary program based in the New Rochelle Family Court. We reach out to court-involved youth and work with them to lead more productive lives in the community. We have created a network of community mentors who serve as role models and help youngsters establish positive goals and turn their lives around.
I spend basically between 4 and 6 hours a week with some of the youth through the probation department. We go to the movies, play basketball. Purpose is to show them that there are more positive things to do, other than hang in the streets, drugs, violence, an alternative.
I got off the streets because I used to be in the streets, do bad things, be with my friends, steal, bikes and everything, and working with Lamont, it's been a pleasure because without him, I don't know where I'll be right now. I'll probably be in jail, something like that.
The positive strides that Michael made, to turn his life around are incredible, This summer he'll be mentoring and himself, some of the youth in his area, about drugs, and drug awareness. He's going to actually have a job doing that, and talking about his experience, what he went through with the court systems.
People with mental retardation and developmental disabilities find a full range of services at WJCS. Community residences, located in convenient neighborhoods throughout Westchester, provide a warm, welcoming family atmosphere for adults with special needs.
These are apples right here. Honeydew.
Our residents become a part of the community fabric. We help them to become productive individuals within society.
The goals of the house is to make these guys as independent as possible, so they can facilitate their own activities such as recreation, cooking, cleaning, chores. Some will possibly graduate to a more independent living facility.
In the morning we do a setting table, wiping countertop. My day is today. Mine is Saturday.
My day is on Fridays.
My laundry day is Wednesday. Monday is my day.
Fulfilling our commitment to serve the Jewish community, the Havurah program invites our residents and people with disabilities who live within the community to celebrate Jewish holidays and life cycle events.
I am very impressed by the twinning program where young girls who are bat mitzvah invite people who are handicapped to participate in that program. It was a complete surprise to me and something that I never envisioned for my daughter.
A wide variety of services offer people with developmental disabilities the opportunity to grow and develop to their fullest potential. The members of our Moving Forward Social Club enjoy each other's company and the Westchester social scene.
It's a great social night out, and we do nice social activities, and I like everybody in the group. I almost feel in a way that I'm like a family to the group.
And I enjoy all the activities here, and I've been WJCS for a while now, and I enjoy everybody's company. And I really love these people very much, and I'm attached to everybody, and they're very friendly. The best part of the group, too, is I like the guys.
It's a Monday night away from my apartment. Instead of being I live by myself, and I've been coming to this agency now for about 13 years.
Hey, yeah! Manja!
The population of older adults in Westchester has grown tremendously, and WJCS has developed a wealth of services to meet their needs. Home health care, one of our original services, provides support in people's homes and in healthcare settings and enables them to maintain independence and live comfortably in the community.
It was a lovely March day. I decided to walk around the block. I lost my balance and I slipped and very slowly went down and broke my hip. I got along very well at the hospital, but they kept me a little bit longer. And then they sent me to a rehab. It was a fine place, but there's no place like home.
Welcome to the Ways We Care of Westchester Jewish Community Services. I'm Dale Wang, Director of Community Relations. WJCS is funded by UJA Federation, United Way, government grants, private individuals, foundations, and corporations. Approximately 10 years ago, a new direction in family service delivery began to take shape in Westchester County. Historically, people with mental or emotional problems were treated by psychologists and psychiatrists. People with social service issues went to social workers, and children with academic and truancy problems were handled by schools and the court system. Those who had troubles that overlapped categories often had different systems and difficulty finding the bureaucratic systems to deal with their issues. There was also often little communication between the systems, so people were often at sea as to how to have their problems solved. What was revolutionary about a decade ago was that these diverse systems began to interact in our county to better serve people and families with multiple problems. Tonight you will hear how this experiment has evolved and how an influx of state funds will now have more than triple the impact of improved service delivery to clients. I'd like to introduce to you those experts who will share their thoughts with us on this issue. John Alterman, welcome John, who is WJCS Clinic Supervisor in Hartsdale and co-chair of the Central Westchester Network. Myra Alfreds, welcome Myra, Director of Children's Mental Health Services for DCMH, the County Department of Community Mental Health. Welcome. And Karen Fredericks, who is the Director of Family Ties. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you.
Maybe we can start by getting a little perspective on how this system evolved and what was different from the traditional way in which mental health services were delivered.
Well, I think I sort of came into it after it had already been operating a little bit. I think Mount Vernon was the place that started. I was at that point in our Yonkers office, WJCS Central Yonkers office, and it sort of came along at a wonderful time because we were having a lot of families come in that really were involved with multiple service systems within the county, and yet the families still were having a problem. They weren't able to get the kind of services they need, or the services weren't coordinated well, or whatever, and as a result the plans didn't work. And I remember thinking as a clinic director, families would come in and I think, how am I ever going to organize this? Who should be involved? How will we get all the players at the table at the same time? And all of a sudden, Network appeared, and it was such a wonderful tool to get everybody sitting in the same room. And the greatest part of it is the family sitting there with you and starting the plan with you, rather than a bunch of people planning someplace over here and bringing it back and saying to the family, oh, well, here's what we're going to do for you. And sometimes it isn't exactly what the family had in mind.
Right. So the traditional clinical services often were not as family-centered. What were some of the other pitfalls of that kind of
Well, I think it's to assume that all things are going to be rendered to a family in one clinic is crazy, because as you pointed out in the introduction, there's so many different things that families need, and sometimes the services are duplicated, and this way, having everybody sitting there and thinking, all right, what are you going to do, what are you going to do, so that we have a way of providing the things, but that everybody's working sort of as a team, rather than sort of coming back together and saying, oh, you were doing that? Oh, I didn't know, So it really works. It's wonderful now. And the family is right at the center of it, planning with you.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know how bureaucracies work, and I would imagine that this was fairly revolutionary to have social services and mental health services and schools start talking to each other. How did this really get started?
Well, I think probably Myra could speak to that, because she was there sort of present at the creation of all this.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and particularly with John and Karen. And John has been one of the preeminent people in the county really working with this model, starting in Yonkers and now in Central Westchester. And I think what happened at the time is there was an environment in the country and eventually in the state where it was recognized that kids really fell through the cracks, and particularly the kids who had the most needs, most serious problems, and families that needed the most support. So at that time, we had some help from the state. Actually, it was our Senator Nick Spano wrote a document called Pay Now or Pay Later, which really led to the beginning of a pilot at the Department of Community Mental Health. And at that time, we were given the challenge of coming up with a way of working with kids and families across systems. Mm-hmm. So we borrowed a model that actually existed in Westchester, which was operating in Mount Vernon, and said maybe we can expand this. And it looked that at that time, we weren't smart enough to know that families had to be at the table, but eventually, with the help of people like Karen and others, we discovered that that was going to be the ingredient as well. And I think that the entire country really was starting to look differently. We had the medical model, and now we were looking at a support model, at a strength-based approach model. We were looking to include families, and families helping other families, which was also revolutionary. And we said, you know, instead of everybody, as John said, having their own idea about what's best for the family, let's ask the family, let's build on strengths, let's make sure communities don't give up on families, and let's come up with one plan instead of plans in each of the different systems. And I think there was a lot of receptivity in Westchester, and we literally went from community to community offering this kind of a design.
Okay, so this got started, and now we have the advantage of an influx of a tremendous amount of money. You want to talk a little bit about what this...
Oh, always happy to talk about.
They call it SAMHSA grant, and maybe you can spell it out for our viewers.
Well, I think there are more than two pieces, but certainly two pieces to keep in mind, and that is the state and the State Office of Mental Health, through the State Office of Mental Health, has really supported communities coming up with their own designs and being able to respond to the needs of kids with serious problems. And through community reinvestment, which has been state money that's been made available locally over the last 6 years, we've really been able to develop much of the design as it exists today.
Let me just, I just want to define for our viewers what community reinvestment was. That was really when institutions were disbanded and it was more community-based services,
yes,
right?
Yes,
okay.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, specifically the closing of state psychiatric beds for adults, actually. Then Westchester County, under Department of Community Mental Health, looked at what we were doing and said, we may really be competitive, not only for state money, but possibly for federal money. And the federal government, over the last probably 8 years, has offered to counties and states, or groups of counties, groups of states, federal funds to support what they call systems of care. And in order to be competitive for this money, one had to have something in place. And we, in fact, as John described it, had the network model, which was community-based, all of the systems working together, including families. And we competed, and were successful, and we were the only applicant in New York State. I'm proud to say, we're rated the highest rated proposal in the country. And in fact, we're one of 20 grants in this last year. So Westchester County has received now approximately $7 million over 5 years of federal Health and Human Service, Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration. The children's mental health initiative is the name of the grant. And it's to build on and support the kind of work that we've been doing over the last 10 years in Westchester.
Are there there are a lot of aspects of this, and we won't have time to really focus on all, but maybe you could highlight for us some of the major aspects of the grant that will affect people, children and families in the county.
Structurally, the grant has 3 parts. There's a management part, which will support the infrastructure and allow us to do training, not only within mental health, but across all of the systems that affect children and families. There is a service component, which will let us expand the kinds of programs and services that have really gone out to families, reached families, allowed families to help other families, allowed young people to help each other, and creates a system that really brings families and communities together across all of the systems. So there's considerable money that will go into the direct services. And then there's a research component, which Columbia University, which has been our research partner for years now, will be part of a macro study throughout the country. And the kind of services specifically are some special populations. We will be looking at kids who have had some fire setting history, who have been sexually aggressive. We will look at 18 to 21-year-olds and be able to really expand what we're doing for those populations. We'll also be able to reach more families. We'll go from an intensive service system of 150 to 400 over the next 5 years, which is very exciting.
Yes, that really is.
And we'll support the network, which is really almost as like a movement, I think, across this county. And I want to say that network, as we're finding out, is unique in the country. Nobody has as developed a community-based system that includes all the components that we've included and is really as global and as strong a structure as Westchester County. So we're very proud of all of that.
Oh, it sounds wonderful, and it sounds like you've gotten the recognition for the establishment of this, what will obviously be a model across the country. Let's talk a little bit about how this implementation works with Network and how people like Karen and John, you as a chair of Network, how you use this system to help a family.
Well, certainly from Family Ties perspective, we talked about fragmentation of services earlier, and that's what it was years ago. There was a real fragmentation. Kids fell through the cracks, families fell through the cracks. And now with Network, it's almost like a one-stop shopping, where we were able to have families really take a lead on what that meeting looks like. I know I've watched John run the meetings, and the family very much is supported in what it is that they want to work on. And once you've done that with a family, they have a feeling like you are really in there with them. You're not telling them what to do, but you're listening to what it is that they feel they need at that particular time. And we're doing it in a very strength-based way, which is so different than what it had been prior to this. We're not looking at faults. We're not looking at what hasn't worked. We're looking at what has worked, what's working, what they like to do to motivate kids and families. Family Ties comes into the picture because we're at every network, and we are there as the family's advocate. We're there as somebody who's been through it before, who understands inherently what it's like to be the parent of a child who raises red flags with their behavior. And so we end up very much being with that family through the whole process. There's no obligation on the family's part to be a part of the support group, but we certainly encourage them to come to our support groups as a way of helping them to get linkage to other services. And so it's a very different process than anything that's ever been out there before, I believe. Mm-hmm. I think Myra has done an incredible job, by the way.
I would add also, I think one of the most important concepts is wraparound, where the services are really molded to the family rather than, here's the service, can we jam the family into it in some way? And just very small things which make such a difference are that we have some, what we call wraparound funds, where things that make a huge difference to a family, which we wouldn't have been able to do before. Just a stupid example is a family where there was a child who was at risk, had a medical condition, their phone was broken, and she didn't have the money to get a new phone. Now, in the old system, what would we have done? We'd have got a donation. What could we do? We had money for a phone. We got a phone.
So the money isn't tied to a particular system. It's available.
Right, and you can use it for things that are going to make the difference, and sort of, put a little oil in the gears there so that it works, rather than having to wait around and everything stops because we can't get a phone.
Let's just step back another step, and how does a family get to the point where they get brought to the network?
Well,
it can be any way. It can be through the school district. It can be through the therapist. It can be the family who's certainly through our support groups. Families hear about Network, and we will then help them to link up with developing a network for them. It can come from any multiple sources, which is very interesting. I was listening to your approach to the wraparound, and it's the creativity that we can do with wraparound. It's the ability to link in with what a kid likes to do. So a kid who's really good artistically and still having all kinds of difficulties in school and in the community, but he likes art. We can get him motivated through some kind of a maybe program, or perhaps a one-on-one, another artist who likes to work with kids. It is unique. It's not money following a program, it's money following a family and child. Mm-hmm. Different.
Now, John, if someone comes to the WJCS clinic, is that there are different access points that people have, is that right? So that one of our clinics could be an entree to that.
And have been. We would certainly like it to be more so. The Central Westchester network has not been as active as some, and we're open for business. We'd certainly like more families to come in. But yes, that would be one entree. The family would come in, and as they started to talk about what they needed, there would be a sense that, well, there are many service systems here, and it's going to get awfully complicated if we start just doing our little piece over here, and somebody would have the idea, let's let's pull everything together and start talking about what would be a plan. This is particularly important where there's already been some stuff tried, and you see, you know, one service here, one service here, one service here, and it doesn't quite work.
So someone would come to you or come to any of the clinics or any of the other types of social agencies that are dealing with families at risk. Schools. And when their problems are put on the table, it would be suggested that they come to Network. Okay.
And it is voluntary. It is voluntary.
And there's no charge for that?
No.
For Family Ties, you said definitely there was no charge. Now, you set up a plan, and this is in conjunction with the other service providers and the family. And then how does this plan get implemented?
Well, ideally, the way the system works is that a team is developed out of the meeting. The family decides who's on their team, and it's called a support circle or whatever, and that team is then responsible to continue to follow things with the family. The family is, of course, on the team too, but it could be neighbors, friends, clergy, anybody they want who they think is central in working with them. And then that follows the process along, and that can meet as often as necessary with the family, again, to sort of check in. I always say to the families, all right, this is where we're starting, but when we check in again, we'll see how this worked, and nothing's written in cement here. Let's see how this worked. And a month from now, if you're saying, no, this isn't what we really needed, we need this, all right, then we can try something else.
How many networks currently exist, and where are they?
Oh, where are they? This is the big test.
It's one of those memory things.
Right? There are, I believe, 10, and I can't do it. Networks to me are born, so we have the birth date, but I don't know if I'm going to do it chronologically, but let's take a step. Portchester, Yonkers, Mount Vernon was the original, Ossining, Peekskill, White Plains, Elmsford, which is central Westchester, help me, New Rochelle, Bedford, and we have actually one at the county medical center, Westchester Medical Center, because many of our families use psychiatric services there.
Now, would someone have to be living in one of those communities in order to access the network in that area?
We have many versions of network because it's such an available, accessible model that every network is mobile. Every network creates emergency or mini networks, mobile networks, emergency networks. And if someone is not in a network community, my office, Children's Services, Mental Health Services, will do a specific network for that family no matter where they live in the county. So there are approximately 200 families now who are coming, being invited, and we specifically invite families to participate in network in their local communities as well as in whatever community they live in.
And do you see this expanding as a result of the SAMHSA grant? Do you feel that you'll be setting up new networks, or will there be different ways that you will implement this?
Part of what happens is that when professionals like John are in a network community, they tend to want a network in whatever community they go to because it just works best for families. So we've gotten calls from a social worker or someone who's left the network community, gone to a new community, and has called us, can we start a network? So that's possible. But the replication of network has occurred beyond Westchester County. And currently there are counties north of us, Putnam, Rockland, Dutchess, and Orange counties. It's also been replicated south of us. All of the boroughs of New York City now have networks, except for Staten Island, which is very exciting to see a model that's begun here that's really now affecting other places.
Right. Well, we don't have too much time left, but maybe you can just give me an idea of what the result, what will be happening as a result of the research studies. Will you be looking to replicate it in different areas or make other adjustments?
The research study is really part of national design. It will not be specific to network. I think what they're trying to show is that having a system of care rather than just individual agencies and systems working with families works better. So that will be the result, and families that come into this will be interviewed at the beginning and then at the end.
So they'll nationally we'll be looking at a change and a redefinition of how social services actually work.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to what's most important about the system and the SAMHSA grant?
I'd certainly like to add that with Family Ties, what we've been given an opportunity to do through the SAMHSA is to open up 3 resource centers. And those resource centers will be available to families in 3 different communities, and one of them is Yonkers, where we're already presently. And then there'll be 2 other communities, one in Peekskill and, one in Mount Vernon, and then the other one in the north part of the county. So families can access all kinds of information all day, every day through that, which will be very different. Before this, we would come into a community, do a support group, and then leave. Now we'll actually become an integral part of that community. I think that'll be very interesting to see.
And Dale, I would want to add that families and Family Ties has been probably the most critical change, that we really look at families differently. And none of this would work without a group such as Family Ties.
Right.
And that's really, really sincere.
Right, and we're going to be talking with a family in our second segment and really seeing how this has worked for a family. I want to give you a chance to let people know how to reach you. John, if people are interested in the WJCS clinics and the services that could bring them to network, who do they get in touch with?
Well, they can call me. Should I give my number?
Yes,
too?
please.
914-949-7699, extension 374. And I can direct them.
Okay. And Karen, why don't you give us the Family Ties number and how people reach you?
You can call 914-285-5238 and just ask for Karen.
Okay. And Myra, is there any central number that people would call if
Absolutely.
they want to?
It's Michael Orth's number, who I am, and his number, because he will help to set up a specific network for a family. And that's 914-285-5225.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I think it's very exciting to see a reinvention in our time of mental health services to blend case management with clinical services and really define what service delivery should be. Please stay tuned because we will be speaking with a family. I also want to remind people that on March 18th, WJCS will be holding a fundraiser. If anyone's interested in joining us, please give us a call at 761-0600, extension 205. Thanks. Welcome back to the Ways We Care of Westchester Jewish Community Services. I'm Dale Wang, Director of Community Relations. WJCS is funded by UJA Federation, United Way, government grants, private individuals, foundations, and corporations. Tonight we are looking at an approach to mental health services that has taken hold as a model for 21st century service delivery. In the first half of our program, we introduced information about the network system and a grant awarded to Westchester County that recognized and expanded upon a more effective and family-centered approach to human services. The SAMHSA grant will be administered on the local level by community-based networks, some of which are chaired by WJCS clinicians across the county. We have the privilege tonight of welcoming Basha Kinglake, who is the chair of the Yonkers Network and member of the Mount Vernon Network, and also director of the WJCS Family Matters program. Welcome again, Basha. When families face overwhelming problems, they don't also want the frustration of being unable to get the help that's right for their situations. Trudy Diaz, welcome Trudy, and her son William, hi William, thanks for joining us, are here to share their experiences as clients of the WJCS Family Matters program. And they'll talk about how coordination among various services helped them get on a promising track. Basha, let's start talking a little bit about the Family Matters program and how you interact with Network in Yonkers.
Network, as the guest speakers from the previous section talked about, is really important in terms of how we start working with a family. It's very much a strength-based perspective. We look at what's working, what the family identifies as being their strengths and supports, whether they're informal, formal supports, and we plan together with the families. I think that's what really distinguishes the Family Matters, the network model, and other programs in the county, which come through Department of Community Mental Health, from others, more traditional methods. So it's looking at things in a more creative way. It's really recognizing that every family, whatever they're struggling with, brings something to the table, and they are encouraged to be active voices in that process.
When you talk about, and we didn't define it in the first segment, strength-based, tell us a little bit about how you determine that and how you use it.
It could be from the family just actually coming to that first meeting, because often the families are really burned out. They've been trying to access services, they've been struggling, and it's been hard. They may not always trust the service providers, and for them to come to a meeting where there may be 5 people who they've never met before is really a sign of their strength and their wish for things to be better for them. Each family has its strengths, and the kids who come to the network meeting will identify things that their mothers, the mother's strengths. It's a very individualized process, but there's always something that can come out.
And I think also in 21st century, the definition of family may not be the same for each network meeting. Can you talk a little bit about how that plays out in today's world?
A family could consist of a grandmother taking care of young children. It could be a father with other extended family members. It really could be any combination of people who are connected and caring about this particular child or children. It's more diverse. Yeah.
Okay, well, Family Matters itself has already been an example of how you blend clinical and case management. Can you talk a little bit about Family Matters?
It's really building on the network process, and we will work closely with the family wherever we need to be to make sure that they're able to deal with the issues with the help of supportive professional service providers and also informal supports that they've identified. And we will pull together the different members of different systems and the informal networks that the family has identified to work better with the family and help them. It's very goal-driven, which is wonderful, so you know what your goal is and you reach it, and then you move on to another one, or you move on to a different type of program. It's different. It's a different model. It's very positive.
Let's see how this actually has worked for Trudy and her family. Trudy, what brought you to the Family Matters Project Intercept program?
My family basically had a lot of dysfunctional issues. My children had academic problems in school, and I never really received the help that I should have, and I didn't have the knowledge to research what the Board of Ed or anyone could do to help those problems. As time progressed, there was a lot of acting out in my children in different situations where has actually caused them trouble. I went to Westchester Jewish Community Services, which I had heard about through a friend, and I started receiving one-on-one therapy there with my children. I also was involved in linkages in Family Court in New Rochelle, which was a program that had a mentor for my child, a probation officer. Susan Dahl was the one who introduced me to Network. That was when we had our first network meeting, and I met the participants from Project Intercept, and that's when everything just started falling together. I became more stronger with discipline issues and parenting, and my kids slowly but surely have been turning around, and I've been very strong with working with the Board of Ed to the point where I've received a resource for my younger child, and I've gotten my older son, William, out of the school district to a more structured program which he needs, which is BOCES Walden School. and so far it's working out terrifically.
When you started and when the children were younger and they were having these difficulties in elementary school, what resources were you looking at that point?
At that point, I basically had maybe a school psychologist, and being that how crowded our school system is, my child would only see once a week, maybe, or once every other week, and it didn't help the way we needed it. They only received maybe remedial math or reading, and it would help a little bit at one point, but they were constantly having almost failing grades, and they were being pushed from grade to grade without maybe advice or recognition. Through Project Intercept, I had my son Brian evaluated for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and he was diagnosed. Since Brian has been taking medication for that condition, his grades are much better. His attention and focusing in school and behavior in school has changed dramatically. There are no behavioral problems, which as to before, there was a lot. Project Intercept works very close with me. They go into the schools and check with their counselors and teachers on their progress and their behavior. We have one-on-one family meetings one night a week at my house. And then there's one-on-one with William and Brian separately every week, every other week. They came with me to CSEs at the Board of Ed to try and receive the special ed component. And I've used student advocacy, and Elmsford Carolyn Bachmini is like the strongest advocate I ever seen for a child. She's really helped me a lot. And it's just, network is terrific because it's, like they were saying in the first segment, they branch off to all these different services, and if parents and families with problems can reach out, they can connect you with what you need help with, and they can give you incentives to be strong. Yeah.
So also your first step into network was through the linkages program,
Yes.
and you said. So that is another WJCS program that is based in the New Rochelle courts and works with children who've been involved with the legal system in some way.
Truancy, behavior problems.
So the social worker from there directed you into the system and then opened
she's
everything
great.
up. Yes, Suzanne is wonderful. Let me just hear, William, if you could give me a sense of what it's like to have all these people so concerned about you. I have children of my own, and I think they're very special. Be that happy to have someone watching all their actions so readily.
It's a good feeling inside to know that all these people care about you and are willing to help you. They helped a lot. They would give me a ride to school, so I wouldn't get in trouble on the way to school. They come around a lot just to show and check up on you. I never really thought negative about any of them, about them looking upon me on certain things. So it actually was helpful.
And when you went to the network meetings, how involved were you in discussing what your needs were?
Well, I was sort of nervous, so I never really said much. I did have some comments, but I wouldn't respond most of the time.
Did you? How did you work out a plan that would work for you? What were some of the things that you
We
felt?
also had his mentor, which was also from Linkages. His name was Robert Allen, and that was really a close person. William became very adjusted with him. When we had our network, we decided that William's problem, which we had seen, was basically if he's in school and he does attend a class, he works well. If the teacher can work a little more closely with him, it works out well. Basically, we figured if we can get someone to bring him to school and get him to that point, then we'd see what we needed to do from there. That's where John Heslin and Sedalia Lewis came in, and John became very supportive of William, and he helped him with all of those things. Unfortunately, being that William needs a little more structure and a different type of setting, we did go further to get him out of there. Those were our plans, and we had a list of positive strengths and negative things that we needed to work on. And there were just as much strengths as there were weaknesses. And the whole network, everybody at the network was very supportive of that, and they all reached out.
Was that surprising to you when you were dealing with all these problems? And you must have felt, you had told me that there were so many issues going on. You must have felt nothing goes right in this house.
Yeah.
Was it different to look at it from a different point of view?
It's totally different. I call them all my angels because, like you said, when all of these things are going wrong and nobody's perfect, you can run into a lot of problems. And if you're supposed to be the strong person to try and hold your family together, and you might have support of family members and maybe friends, and you can't make it. And to know that there are all these services out there that people can reach out to is really a change. It is, because I think that there are so many families and children in all different communities besides Mount Vernon that actually fall through the cracks in school and at home, and it's great that this is being done.
We had talked a little bit about what you personally gained from this. Can you express how you've grown or changed as a result of working in this system?
Okay. Basically, with the help of all the services, especially Project Intercept, I feel my parenting skills are strengthening. I feel proud and strong because I was able to communicate with the Board of Ed in the right channels in order to get my kids the help they need. And I basically just kept pushing forth the strong issue that year after year after year, they had these failing problems of staying on task and following directions, and it wasn't picked up, and to a point where they would get the right amount of help. So knowing that each step further I got with that, we were like, yes, we've done it. And to know that I can help them, and that they can become functioning young adults, which William's getting ready to do.
William, you're in a new school, and your mom said your schedule of your day has changed a little. Can you tell us a little bit about how this is working out for you?
It's working out pretty well. I enjoy this schedule more than last. I have an elective 3 times a day. Basically, I can choose from computer and gym, and that's a little bit more helpful because I enjoy that more than certain other things. Teachers are great, the kids are great. There's a sort of a zoo, I can play with animals and stuff, so I really enjoy that.
So even though you're commuting and you're going a little further, there are a lot of things there that you really are enjoying.
Yes, it's a wonderful place.
Do you have goals for yourself as to what you'd like to see, down the road, a couple of years?
Well, I would like to become an electrician. I kind of caught that when I was working with my uncle. He's like a contractor, so it rubbed off on me. So I figured that was interesting to do.
Good old Uncle Seth. He kept him busy all summer.
If he does that, I don't have any doubt you're going to be successful. Basha, is their experience typical of people who've gone through this?
I think it really is in maybe different degrees, but I think just a sense of being able to take charge and being, in a way, your own case manager and feeling empowered. It's all about empowerment, and I think Trudy's really just grown. It's wonderful to see her. Yeah, I think it's important just to remember to make services accessible, and Trudy works long hours, so I think the ability for us to go meet with you in the evenings or whenever we needed to made a difference, and to provide sort of a break for you too through some programs, weekend rec programs, through the peer leadership program.
Can you talk a little bit more about some of those aspects of it?
William, you've been going to Ramapo for the peer leadership.
Yes.
Maybe you're better than I am. He's been going.
Yeah.
You went twice, I think, right?
Basically, you meet at a train station. You take the bus up there. It's a pretty long ride. The camp's wonderful. They got several activities at the lake. We go to Bard College. It has a swimming pool and a basketball court. We can use the facilities. It's nice. We talk a lot about team leadership and group skills, about working as a team. We also are taught belaying skills. It's basically how to climb a mountain. It's fun. I enjoy it a lot.
And this is basically a respite program.
Well, again, it's the wraparound. What we thought and what, with your input, would be good for this family and would give you a little bit of a break and an opportunity for William to develop some peer leadership skills. And I think Brian was doing some of the weekend rec activities.
Yeah, and he's going to start going to Ramapo in the spring. Yeah.
So these opportunities, and you had also mentioned a summer camp program, that's also part of what becomes available.
Right, and he can, at his age, he can be trained during these monthly visits to become a counselor if that's what he would like at the camp.
So really, it seems great that from someone who's struggled with so many different issues to have a blueprint. You had mentioned that you had a couple of goals for your family, and you have a little one as well.
Yes, I have a 3-year-old. He's fantastic. He keeps us all busy.
Well, I think you're going to have graduated past parenting, 205 or whatever.
Definitely. I think I'm going to have more stronger outlooks for him, and I would notice any falls that he might make better, because now I'm like on my second time around. I just have wonderful goals for both of my older boys, Brian and William. I'm hoping they can go on to a trade school or college and do what they would like to do in the future, and just be functioning adults, through all the problems that they experienced. It just makes them stronger each time they can turn around. And William has really turned around from like a year, 2 years ago. He's doing well.
It must make you feel great about yourself, William, to see this change, and now to be in a situation where a peer leadership program where you can share your experiences with other young people who are struggling with similar situations.
He might be helping at Walden School with that. He might speak out or help tell the other children what kind of problems you can face with peer pressure and how to come out of that.
Do you have goals for yourself?
Oh, yes, I do. I have an associate's degree in word processing, which I received through Monroe College. I plan on going back for my bachelor's to go further in computers. As soon as the little one kind of maybe gets past kindergarten, I'm going to have to go to night school. Definitely, I do want to further in computers.
Right. Well, I certainly see that you are a tremendous example of how things can change, and how with personal strengths and with the support of so many, your family and people from the outside, that you can really make a difference and set such positive. I'm sure you'll accomplish whatever you set out to do. Basha, if viewers are interested in the network process but unsure whether they qualify, what do you have to do to qualify?
That's an interesting question. Often it's a family where traditional mental health services have failed. And usually the families are dealing with multiple stressors. They're often involved with the Department of Social Services. There's an issue probably in the schools. Maybe probation is involved. And it doesn't feel like anything's happening or anything's working. And then the network process can really be an asset to the family, and also I think to the service provider who's bringing the family to network, or has invited the family to network, because again, it is voluntary. And another key part of this is the role of family ties, because we do encourage the moms, whoever's coming to network, to be involved with Family Ties. And again, that's a very strong, supportive component of the services provided.
Mm-hmm. So someone who came to you, if you felt that they weren't being served adequately in any of the systems that they were at, would be referred through this process.
Or maybe a youngster who's just returning back to the community, who's been in residential care. And again, to make sure that that family and the child are being supported and held in the community.
Okay. So if someone is interested in the Yonkers network or in Family Matters, how do they get in touch with you?
I'm going to give you my number, the office, and you can call. It's 914-237-6089, and that would be for network in Yonkers and Mount Vernon, and also for Family Matters, also sometimes known as Project Intercept, or formerly known as Project Intercept.
Right. We go back and forth, but now it will be totally Family Matters. Okay. Give that number again, please.
914-237-6089.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you both for really sharing your story. I'm sure that other people will be inspired and feel that with support they can make
that's
changes.
The basic message. If people reach out to the services, it can help.
Right. Okay. Basha, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you, and I know you work so hard on behalf of families and children. I'd like people to be aware that we will be having our annual meeting in June, and we will be focusing on this issue of coordinated mental health and social services. So if you're interested in finding out more about it, please give me a call at 761-0600 extension 205. We'll also be holding a fundraiser on March 18th, and we welcome everybody to swing into spring with us to benefit the WJCS Learning Center, another service which serves children and adults with learning difficulties in Westchester County. If you're interested in that, please call me at 761-0600 extension 205. Again, thank you all, and good night.